that anybody's in chat yet. It usually takes a couple minutes. So we'll kind of piddle around here and we'll get into it a little bit more in a second. Um, let's see. While we are messing around here, I will go and check the YouTube stream itself and just make sure that we are good on that side.
Yeah, I see you. I just got a notification for it. There we go.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, uh, Bond Servant Dan. I think I used you Dan the Jesus Man in the title. I changed it at the last moment. So um, like first of all, Dan, I appreciate you coming and into the proverbial lion's den to have this conversation, and it's what kind of tomfoolery are we up to today? All sorts. Yeah, we're going to start with the problem of evil, and I imagine we're going to get a bit into like divine hiddenness and probably a little bit. I'll hit on the problem of deception a little bit, which isn't a widely known thing, but like we'll talk about those things, and you can tell me what you think as we go. And I don't. First of all, I don't care what people believe or you believe or anything. It has no effect on how this conversation goes. I care about the things that people do with their beliefs and how they treat other people and stuff like that. So while I may not agree with you on some of your beliefs, Dan, this isn't an adversarial thing. This is a mostly intellectual conversation where we're just going to have some fun. So no pressure here. This isn't a debate. This isn't there's no winners here. If you make me look silly for saying something silly, that's okay. I make myself look silly on here all the time, so it's just fine. And it's not my goal to make you look silly. I am at some point today probably gonna make you say some silly things, just because of the topic. But it's one of those things that it's like this just logically follows that because of the problem of evil, you have to we get into divine command theory and stuff like that. Right. But so anyway, anybody who's joining in that doesn't know me, I'm Joe, the Kentucky Atheist. I'm here today with Dan, going by Bond Servant Dan. Little bit of backstory. I follow several different groups on Facebook that are atheists versus theists and different things like that. I don't know which group we cross paths. Probably multiple ones actually. But I go on there as myself as Joe, and whenever I come across people who are actually wanting to engage in honest conversation, I say, hey, I have this channel, the Kentucky Atheists. If you want to come have a talk with me, I would love to do that. It can benefit both of us and believers and atheists alike, to just talk about stuff. So that's why we do this. It's again not a competition. But why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Dan? Just whatever you want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me on this podcast. I know that it was a few months back we interacted, and I was just really busy with school and stuff, so I couldn't really come on immediately. But here I am. So a little bit about me. Basically, I was born and raised in Florida. I went through high school, graduated. I'm currently in college right now to go into radiology. And so I got saved when I was about 14 years old. I grew up in a Christian household, and I was raised with the Bible.
One second, Dan. The audience is telling me that they're getting a bad echo from you. Let me see. I bet it's me causing it, actually. Hold on. I want people to be able to hear you. Let's do this. All right, Dan, talk again and chat. Let me know if there's still a bad echo.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. Oh, I don't hear the echo on my end anymore. That sounds
Okay.
good. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
All right.
We're
So yeah,
live. It happens.
technical difficulties. Um. So yeah. So I got saved when I was 14 years of age, and so I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up with parents that they were both Christians. They read the Bible. They brought me to church. But I I was struggling with a lot of things like depression. I tried to commit suicide about 2 times prior to conversion. And so what happened was my father, he did a Bible study, and it was about the fruits of the Holy Spirit and what a Christian is supposed to act like and supposed to understand emotionally and intellectually about themselves. And I found that I didn't have that, and I was like, huh. Well, I grew up in church. I grew up doing church things and interacting with Christians all my life, but I don't have that peace. I don't have that joy. I don't have that fulfillment that the Bible and the Bible and my family talked about. So I was already depressed and I was at my wits' end, and I went into my room and privately I looked up the sinner's prayer. Now it's not in the Bible, but it basically covers like confession of sin, that I'm a sinner and that I need forgiveness and that Jesus is Lord and that He died and rose again on the third day. So I prayed that with faith, and I literally felt something holy come into me, and I felt a lot of evil leave. And I know that's anecdotal, but right then and there, I felt a change. I was no longer feeling suicidal at that point, and I had a natural tendency to want to read the Bible and understand God more afterwards. So going through my life and stuff, I went through childhood, early adulthood and stuff, and yeah, and the Lord just led me along the way. I've talked with many different atheists and Buddhists, and I spoke with Hindus, Muslims, a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, homeless, rich, poor, you name it. And then I got into exorcism and deliverance, which is a topic we can also talk about later today. Um,
Sure.
when I was about 22 years old. Yep. And then, I've just kind of been going ever since.
Uh,
Oh,
can you hear me?
yep, I hear you.
Approximately how old are you now?
I am 28.
Okay, okay. Just to get a timeline of things there. Well, Dan, first of all, that's interesting, and I actually share some of those same experiences with you, and I feel for you on the mental health side of things. It's you know sometimes we look for answers why and how and what about things, and um, while I don't Well, I don't find personal experience sufficient to share your belief. I do think it's one of the more compelling things that theists bring to the table is their personal experience. I can't tell you you didn't experience what you experienced. It's your experience.
Right.
Um, I can come up with well, what may be a more reasonable explanation or things like that. But at the end of the day, they're your experiences, and I don't try to discount those or anything else. And I'm glad you're still here with us, and I'm glad that whether it be religion or whatever that you started to feel better about yourself and stuff, because that's an awful thing to have to experience. Um, I was a heroin addict for like 20 years, so like
Oh,
I understand that feeling of hopelessness and things like that. I get it, and I was also like Southern Baptist, which is they tell you you're a piece of crap all the time anyway. So
yeah. I got my own qualms about Baptists.
yeah, yeah. So their big thing is you don't deserve God, but Maybe you can have a little bit anyway.
Right.
Uh, Deviant Outcast says, let's see, do I have to go out of full screen to highlight? Sorry, guys, we're live here. Uh, Deviant Outcast says, yes, it's anecdotal, but it was real to you. So, important question. How do you know it was actually a spiritual experience and not the comfort of feeling hope and not being alone in the dark?
So this goes into habits and habit formation because it wasn't just depression that I was dealing with. It was addiction to pornography. And pornography is actually one of the most addictive, quote unquote, substances you can get into. Um, they say that basically when you get into pornography, it can be just as addictive as cocaine. So um, when when I felt the Holy Spirit enter in, which I consider that good feeling, the Holy Spirit entering in, and I felt something evil leave, that tendency to want to look at that stuff and to desire that stuff went away completely. Yep, instantly. Like day one, the second that it happened, it no longer went into my life.
So, do you feel like without the bad experiences, you wouldn't have been able to fully realize the good ones? Like you wouldn't have been able to fully realize the power of your belief?
So outside of like bad experiences and stuff, because of how I was raised, I always had that feeling of, or understanding. I wouldn't say feeling, but understanding of God and Christ and who He is. Um, so it, whether I went through something bad or not really didn't change my opinion on Him and on the spiritual aspect of things. Yeah.
So, Chad asked if you have some kind of source for pornography being as addictive as cocaine, or is that just like anecdotal?
No, no, it's not anecdotal. I don't have like a direct source, especially since I kind of looked it up like a few years back. But you can look up the research into pornography and how addictive it is. Sorry, I can't talk.
So you've read somewhere that there is that connection or that correlation anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and it came from, if I remember correctly, it didn't come from like a weird like alternate source. It actually came from a legit case study.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So and I'm not going to question that right now. I'll look it up later. But the because I find that interesting. But the so a little bit about your religious belief. A lot of these groups I talk to what we call young Earth creationists. Do you fall in that group? Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, yeah. So the creationist argument of it's a young Earth, Adam and Eve story, stuff like that, instead of like the billions of years or trillions of years that the Earth took to develop.
Right. Okay. So just to and I have my own qualms about that. I don't know if you know, but I organize the Ark Encounter protest annually, and so
Oh wow.
we just did our 10th anniversary one. I haven't done all 10 of them, but I kind of took it over and stuff, and
Hmm.
I worked with several other nonprofit groups and individuals to do it. It's not just me, but anyway. So we can definitely have a conversation about young Earth creationism at some point. So that's a good bit of background and stuff, so we know where you're coming from and things, and we'll hit back on some of those things as we go. I'll keep that in mind, and because I can see where that will fit into our conversation. But the thing that you and I the topic that we crossed paths on was I don't remember the actual topic of the post, but I had hit on something about, well, if there's this all knowing, all loving God, then why is there so much evil and suffering in the world? And that's the topic that caught your attention initially, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Let me just lay it out like this, and I'll go ahead and give you, because while I think the problem of evil is a great conversation, um, I actually often, if I'm making the argument, I make it from a divine hiddenness standpoint. Like, you wouldn't expect this God to be that way, and we get into deception and all. The problem of evil is not a by itself thing. You can make the argument by itself and whatever, and that's fine. I don't, whoever does that, it's great. I have a lot of friends who talk almost only about that, and that's fine. But I think that tying these things together is more important. So it goes like this: the all knowing, all loving, omnipresent God. Uh, if this God is all loving, we see so much suffering and pain in the world, and I would come to the conclusion that this God is either unable to prevent that or not willing to, uh, because an all loving God could have done it any other way, all powerful as well. So um, it could have been done any other way. You wouldn't expect an all loving, all present, all knowing God to perform this way. There could be so many ways that it would be better. Kids not starving to death, dying of awful diseases, um, suffering that goes on all over the world, human trafficking, murder, whatever you want to get into. Um, and that's the foundation of the argument. So how do you respond to that?
So I would have one question about that before I really get into it, and it
Sure.
is, how do you blame the Lord, or how do you blame a God? Let's just, outside of Christianity, but just God in general, for the doings of mankind.
Well, first of all, I I wouldn't actually say I blame God, because I don't believe in that God, and
True.
this is one of the reasons that I don't believe in that God, right? Because I think the definition for that God as the Triomni God is contradictory. The But I will say this: in the Bible, God says essentially that He's responsible for creating all good and all evil. Uh, so everything bad that happens, God's responsible for everything in between, all the good and the bad.
Okay, got it. So that would be like the primary basis of that opinion about basically why God, would let evil in the world, and how can God do that if He's real? Um, so my response to that would probably be that, well, ultimately it would be free will, and so I don't know about the verse that talks about God creating evil. I know that He allowed it, and that in the Bible you see Satan as, the archetype of rebellion. That it started in his own heart. It didn't. It wasn't like implanted from the Lord at that point to rebel against Him in heaven. And the same thing with Adam and Eve. If we take that story literally or not, that's up to, interpretation stuff. Nobody can really know the beginning, but basically, Adam and Eve, it wasn't like God implanted evil into their hearts to eat the apple. It was it was basically a result of willful rebellion, because even Adam, like with the apple, when Eve ate it, or the fruit, when Eve ate the fruit, she just immediately gave it to her husband without even saying anything, and he took and ate it willingly. So there had to be some sort of mutual agreement between each other at that point in order to respond that way, which in essence is considered evil, which is rebellion. Um, yeah, and that would be my statement on that portion.
So
Yeah.
so I'm going to speak here as if I'm giving you those things, right? Like as if Adam and Eve and all that. So an all-knowing God knew that they were going to eat from the tree, correct? Like he knew that that was going to happen because he's all-knowing.
I would say it was more like many paths. Like he knows everything. Like it's not just like one linear progression according to what the Bible kind of talks about. It's kind of like he knows the whole of mankind and knows the whole of how everything can happen and will happen in certain aspects. But there's always like open. It's like all the doors are open.
Okay. So you would say God does not know the choice that they were going to make. He's not aware of what choice they were ultimately going to make.
It's I wouldn't say it's a not knowing. It's more so that he lets things play out. And so it depending on what choice humanity makes, because he can change his mind. Such as when he was gonna in when Moses was on Mount Sinai, God was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill all the Israelites because they completely fell away from me. Look at what they're doing." And Moses pleaded with God and actually changed his mind about that situation. So it's kind of like us. Like when we go through life, right? It's not there's many paths that we can go down, and we know some paths we know what can happen, but it's our choice to open those doors and go through them at that point.
So in that case, God didn't even at the moment know the choice he was going to make because he changed his mind. He had other plans and changed his mind. That to me says that we're not dealing with an all knowing God, an omniscient God. Uh,
It's yeah, I mean, you could see it that way. It can also be that he's prepared to make decisions ahead of time. Like we plan for a house and stuff, and we build up money and whatnot. And for him, it could be, if they make this choice, okay, this is the way I'm going to respond. If they make this choice, this is how I'm going to respond to it. Kind of situation, kind of like a parent, right? So you watch your child, and you know what they're going to do, kind of, but all the options are open, and you know that they're going to pick one.
hmm.
And depending on what they choose, they there's consequences, good and bad, to those.
So, Deviant Outcast went and found a Bible verse, Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So just one instance of you know God taking responsibility for evil. So the okay, let's simplify a little bit here. Um, I'm gonna hold up a number of fingers on my hand. Does God know how many?
If it's one number, yeah.
Okay. So do I have the choice then to hold up a different number of fingers? If God already knows the outcome, if God knows I'm going to hold up two fingers, can I then hold up one and make God wrong?
Not really, because he kind of went through all the options. Like I said, all the doors are open. He just, depending on what we choose, he responds accordingly.
But so the question is if God knows that I'm going to hold up two fingers, I don't actually have the choice to hold up one.
You can. He'll just respond a different way to that situation compared to the number two situation.
Well, then again, we're not dealing with an omniscient God because he's incorrect in his knowledge. Like um, God would know that, and I know that's a real simple way to get to it. But like, if God knows everything, present, past, future, um, is there a choice to do otherwise? And I don't think having an omniscient being with agency allows you to make that choice to do otherwise. Am I going to have pizza tonight? If God knows the answer to that and God is omniscient and all powerful, I don't have a choice to do otherwise. I'm going to have pizza. I don't have that free will to change my mind in that situation. And that's where the triomni God, I feel like, is contradictory in ways, right? Because putting agency in a being that has the ability to know everything that's going to happen doesn't allow you to change the things that are going to happen. They're determined.
I wouldn't say determined. Like going back to the multiple doorway situation, right? So, yeah, you can be on the road and say, I want pizza. But then you see a giant cheeseburger and it's like, you know what? I think I'm going to have a cheeseburger tonight. If pizza's 2 miles away, this one's right here. I'm going to have it. Now, he knows that both situations can happen, but you chose that one. So now he can respond accordingly to that situation.
Well, I don't think that he. So here's one of the things that comes up in this is that whenever I talk to theists about this, they often think that I'm saying God makes you choose that way, and that's not what I'm getting at. I'm saying it all knowing means all, right? It's in the phrase. So if I'm going to change my mind at the last second, an all knowing being knows everything, knows that I'm going to change my mind, ultimately knows that I'm going to pick this other thing. It's an illusion of free will in that situation then, because we can't have both there. He can't both know what I'm going to do and I have a choice to do otherwise.
I mean, he can. I mean, that's basically kind of what I'm getting at. Actually, I'm glad you actually said that because it is kind of like that. Like it's kind of like you can have your cake and eat it too kind of situation where he knows the decisions that you're making, but he also knows the options to not make that decision or to make that decision. So, and this kind of goes into like metaphysics and stuff, which I don't really rely on too much, but he knows the past, present, and future. He knows there's a linear path the way humanity's going, and then there's like optional paths, just like God has like an absolute will, which is the Great Commission, to where the purpose of a Christian life is to spread the gospel, make disciples among nations. And then there's like the optional stuff where it's like, okay, I want you to go to the supermarket and tell this person about Jesus. Like those are optional things that, but in between the beginning and the end, that God has us going through at that point.
Yeah.
So he gives us the free will choice to choose his options. I mean, at that point, I'll feed into that a little bit. We have the free will choice to choose his options in this world, and the consequences follow.
Does he know the consequences?
Yes, because he enacts the consequences, and he actually instilled in reality, this world and how it works, the mechanism of consequences for our actions.
So I mentioned that there are a lot of other atheists that talk about this subject and stuff. B.S. Lewis just popped up in chat. Would be an excellent guy for you to go talk to sometime. A really friendly, good guy to talk to. But anyway, so I can't get away from like logically what you're defining is determinism, though. Like the we're taking an all-knowing God and we're making all these caveats to where eventually we get to, well, the outcome's already determined, but how you get there isn't. If the consequences are already known, if the outcome's already known, the path doesn't really matter, I don't think, because the outcome's determined. And also, if we break that down, though, you still have to, an all-knowing God still has to know all those paths already. And we have this conversation so many times, and it's confusing because, if I was in your shoes, which I used to be a believer in things, I would just have to say, well, it says all-knowing, but, maybe it's not, or maybe it's not all knowing in every detail, or I mean, I'm just trying to find an out there for that to make that make sense. And if we say that, well, God's all knowing, but doesn't do anything about it, then is that God all loving and all powerful as well? So whenever you try to combine these three omnis together, you always end up with a contradiction of they can't exist at the same time. Now, me personally, I would say that uh, an all-knowing God can have agency because there's no decisions to be made. There's no things to the it's already known. It's already in action. And I would kind of say that that follows the path of how we understand the universe itself. But you don't need to add all the baggage that comes with God. Just there's we can say that things are contingent on a higher order of things down the chain, but I don't think introducing a God is ever necessary to have that conversation. Um, we've got a question from chat, and then you can also respond to all that crazy stuff I just said. Uh, and again, we're just having fun here. So first of all, we have uh, Native Atheist just became a member. Thank you, Native Atheists. Appreciate the membership. Anybody else interested in becoming a member, they start at 99 cents. So if you want to be a member, go for it. I haven't been streaming a lot lately, but this is the beginning of getting back into regular streams and stuff. So yeah, become a member and get in on all that goodness. The question: so if God knows all outcomes of everything, he must be an evil bastard. Because he gave us free will, and when he didn't like what we did with it, as he already knew what we would do with it, he killed everybody in a flood. Uh, I don't know if that's
That's
really a question, but
I mean, I could kind of chime into that a little bit.
sure.
Um, he leaves the door open for free will, and the free will agency doesn't go outside of his will because then there would be absolute chaos. But concerning the flood situation, I actually figured this out. Nowhere in the Old Testament before the flood did God ever smite anybody. Literally, from Adam and Eve all the way up to Noah and the flood. There was not one instance where Yahweh at the time like killed anybody. He just let evil and the choices of mankind play out until a point of, and this kind of goes into some extra biblical stuff. I believe that there was Nephilim on the planet that corrupted humanity and the DNA and corrupted animals and their DNA and created all sorts of weird hybrid stuff. And so, because of that, and because of the evil that was, it says that there was evil perpetually. And so that means that every iota of a human being at that point was bent towards evil, which is just the lack of good or the lack of God. And he has specific rules and specific things that promote life and promote benefits to prolonging life. Um, so, in the hearts of mankind at that point, it was perpetually wicked. They did not have 1 second throughout their whole entire lives where they had something good to do.
So
And
so so babies were born evil.
it would be the influence of the society. And you can see this in, like, I hate to rag on Muslims, but in like really rural Muslim communities, the children are born and then immediately they're put into households that are abusive, that are corrupt, that are evil. And then by the time they're 10, 11, 12 years old, they're handed an AK-47 and they go off and shoot people. And that is um, the generational propitiation
Yeah, but that's an
of wickedness.
extreme. That's a really extreme set of circum. That's not the norm. That's not even that's an outlier. Like you're so whenever just back to this the so everybody and everything was evil except for Noah and his family, which and we'll get into some of the consequences of that in a minute. But like the claim there is that unborn babies, children, babies were all evil or either going to become evil because mankind was so evil. Um,
There does end up a situation where it is very sad to see, and you see this in like the example I just gave, and that comes from a military guy that I know. He was in Afghanistan in the Middle East, and he toured there about 3 or 4 times, and he saw that happen. Um, it's a society can actually become so evil that even the children get corrupted at an early age, and
sure.
it's a very unfortunate circumstance to see in life.
But is there an age where they're innocent? Like is on day one are they innocent? Is it like even just on average is it at 1 year? I mean, at some point these babies are not corrupted. They're not they've not sinned. I mean, the Bible refers to the innocent. The this flood that kills everyone, destroys everything, animals included. Which, by the way, which there's not really a good argument for those being evil, but the everyone's killed. So this is supposed to ultimately be a good thing, right? Because Noah's lineage, which is what's the word righteous. Noah is righteous, so his lineage though is going to repopulate the earth through incest, mind you, um, with good people. The I mean, so ultimately, the killing of all these evil people is a good thing.
No, and not even God considered it a good thing either. Sorry to be so sharp about that, but no, he didn't consider it a good thing. It was actually a really remorseful thing, and it even says
Uh,
that he was remorseful for creating humans at that point. It was so bad at that point that um, his hand was dealt at that point. And the righteousness of Noah and his family are kind of speculative. It's not like he was like pure and holy, and he was like the best. He was Martin Luther King, right? He was the best man alive.
so
Um,
just a quick question. So could God have achieved this in any other way than a flood? Like an all powerful God, could he have done it any other way?
he gave them 200 and something years, actually beyond that, even before the flood. He gave mankind possibly thousands of years to repent, and none of
Yeah.
them did.
What I mean is could he have just snapped his fingers and deleted everybody? Like could he he's an all powerful God. Is there a limit to that? Like could he have done it any other way at all?
Um, I can't play God, unfortunately, but I can give
Sure.
some speculation that it was a no other option type of scenario. And by that point, humankind was so corrupted that even if they even if they were to be in the full presence of God at that point, they would still spit in his face.
Okay, so he couldn't have done it through a meteor or fire or it had to be a flood. He's out of options. The all powerful God has no other
Right.
direction other than a flood.
Yeah, I
So
mean, he could have used anything, but thing is, if like an asteroid hit the Earth, right, that would really because everything, going into astronomy and stuff, everything is precisely placed. Where if anything were to happen or put something off kilter, even by 1%, things can fly out of proportion pretty quick.
so God is bound by the laws of physics.
No, he just set up, he set up the system to be precisely intact, where there is limited movement and limited junction between moving parts. It's kind of like if I were to take a cog out of a watch, right? Is it going to still spin? Probably not.
Sure, sure.
Um,
So
or if I put
miracles are
sand
impossible.
in the cogs, it's going to bust up and break.
Yeah.
So wouldn't be a good possibility. And if an asteroid hit the Earth, it would depends on the asteroid. It could really just put everything out of kilter,
Sure.
considering
I mean,
gravity and gravitational pull.
I would say that the dinosaurs experienced
Oh, I
this,
think.
but yeah, not that the meteor ultimately killed them off, just the timeline. The
Right.
so what does remorse look like for an all knowing, all powerful being? Like, how do we get to if okay if I'm like I'm gonna drop this lighter
Mm.
and I know I'm gonna drop it. I know it. I know what's gonna happen. Um, and I choose to do it, can I really? Is there really regret there? Like I know the outcome. I know the consequences into infinity. Um, can I really then have regret for doing it?
If the point of the drop, like if the things that led up to the point of dropping that lighter was completely inseparable, like let's take the lighter for example as the asteroid that hits the Earth. Um, if there was no other option than to do that, that would create remorse. Like if somebody's I don't know, if somebody's kid like went off and was going to kill a family, right? He was out of his mind, he's belligerent, he's strong, 250 pounds, all muscle. He's going to this family's house to, kill the family. You have a gun in your hand, he's hyped up on drugs, he's out of his mind. You shoot him in the leg, nothing happens. You shoot him in the arm, nothing happens, and he still is persistent. He is going to go and kill this family, and you have to, at that point, either kill him or he's going to kill the family. It creates remorse at that point for somebody to do that to their children.
Right, but I know that those things aren't going to work, and that I have to because I'm all knowing. So I know that those aren't going to be effective, and I know what I have to ultimately do. Um, I can, and also, I'm the one who set those things in action. I know every step along the way that led to that point of what I'm going to have to do. Why would I, if I have the option, I'll stop that person from even existing if I'm the all powerful creator because, you know, and when we talk about free will, I think that flooding and killing everyone violates that greatly. The At that point, they had no option other than that. That was the plan. That's how it was going to be carried out. He told Noah this is what was going to happen, and then carried it out. Also, though, the whole thing about the children and stuff. I mean, you have to you have to then say that all of the innocents that were killed in this flood, including the animals, mind you, um, was necessary. And if God is an all good being, an omnibenevolent being, then it's not only necessary but it's good. And that's one of those things where I was like, we're going to get into like you're going to have to admit to some silly things here, and I don't know any way around that if you give those qualities to a god. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's wrong. Just how I don't understand how we get there.
So for the children thing, what do you think happened to the children after death?
After they died one of the most horrible deaths you can die, drowning. Um, uh, I mean, if they're innocent, um, the Bible describes, bliss as continuing to worship Jesus every day for eternity. The streets of gold and the perfect weather and the all of those things aren't really that appealing for eternity. Perfection for eternity becomes torture after a period of time, in my opinion. And that's a talk about the promise of eternal life or torture. I think they're both torture. If we give that those things are possibilities,
Right.
But that goes down a whole nother subject, right? So
Yeah.
but see, and that's again that's where you're at though, because it's like you're this good reward afterward because they're innocent. Well, that argument is literally you making the argument that killing babies is good. Uh, that's what we're arguing right now, and I think that's loopy. Personally, like, and not to be not. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Listen. I was a believer until I was like 25 years old. I get it, but like, some of the things. This is what I wrestled with though. Is like, how do I look at these things and say that this is a good God and that this is a good thing that I should want for humans. If I care about humans, I would do it any other way. And God had the ability to do it any other way. Yet in this story, He does it this way, which I don't think follows those Tra-Omni requirements.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with what you're saying concerning like the psychotic part of killing children and innocent people. Um, and go so reversing back because we went through a few topics there. Reversing back to was the flood an act of the lack of free will on God's end? Like he's at all the points up until that point were just kind of like yeah, you can do whatever you want until this exact moment, right? It's like that
Sure.
would break his rules. Um,
And also, like, the Nephilim are described as the sons of God. Um,
no, those were okay. So the fallen angels were considered the sons of God, and then the Nephilim were the men of renown.
right. The
Yeah,
result of that, right? So,
yeah.
so the sons of God laid with the sons of man or the daughters of man,
Right.
and created the Nephilim. So, um, again, we have this all-knowing being who sets all this in action and knows this thing is going to happen, allows it to happen, and then punishes everybody for things that ultimately, he's the manager of heaven up there. So, he should. I feel like he's responsible for this, and then punishes humans for it. Like the again, we're looking at these things like, yeah, the story sounds good, and it kind of makes sense on the surface, until you apply some critical thinking to it and follow it to its conclusion. And I feel like that the God that is represented is not possible given the implications of the details of the story, because it's the details whenever you start to look at this that it all starts to crumble and fall apart. And that's where I'm at with it. I'm not,
Mhm.
again, I'm not telling you you're wrong. It's just like I don't, as somebody who used to believe these things were true, and I was young Earth creationist as well. Um, Whenever I start to look at this story, and also you told me that you've looked into other religions and there's other creation stories, right? Um,
There's a few, yeah.
so like for example, the Vikings, they believe that the water came from Odin's armpits, and all that stuff. Like, but and as far fetched as we think that is, as people who grew up in a Christian culture, how do we know that if magic is, and excuse me again, not being disrespectful, but if magic is an option, anything. We can make up anything, and it's possible. So how do we know which of these stories is a made up story by man, and is it both of them? Is it all of them? Are they all just our way to explain the world around us, given the knowledge that we had at the time?
Yeah, so going into other religions and seeing how they operate and see the rituals and rites and the stories that they believe in their texts and whatnot. I find that they say a lot of details about the world or how to follow these things or a rule book of how to do X, Y, and Z, but there's a lack of physical evidence of those things as well. Like it's like
Sure.
clusters, right? You can't just be like, yeah, for instance, the Bible's real and that's it. Like it needs to have clusters to it because it talks about real history, whether it's Israel or it's talking about the Roman Empire, or it's talking about Jesus' death, or even even speculative things like current modern times where it talks about in Revelation that there's going to be a one world system. It's going to be there's going to be a mark that you're going to have to take, and there has to be evidence that like brings this stuff together. And so I believe that the Bible is not shy about providing that world evidence through archaeology, through history, through secular writings. Um, yeah, I just don't see it. And when you look at
Well,
like the origins of a lot of these religions, it goes back to like Hermetic dogma, esoteric stuff. It goes back to like Freemason dogma, which is like a mixture between Hermeticism, Kabbalah, the ancient like Egyptian occultic texts. A lot of Eastern religions kind of take off after those, and it seems like they formed individual religions. Like we have, like the church has 40 different thousand denominations.
sure.
I see the world religions as denominations for the original occultic practices back in the day.
Well, so then, following that logic out, then Christianity is just a form of the religions that predated it.
So modern Christianity, it's basically an offshoot of original Judaism, not the Talmud or anything like that, but the Old Testament, the first like five books of the Bible, the Torah. So before Christianity was Judaism, and then before Judaism was something older that where going back to Job and what he believed that it wasn't really like a primary system. It seemed like God in the Old Testament was really present at the time, and people knew that God existed at that time.
So Zoroastrianism.
No, no. So Zoroastrianism kind of goes along the lines of Hermeticism concerning reincarnation, and um, it talks about basically traveling into the spiritual realm when you die, and you have to go visit these people, and it's I haven't studied Zoroastrianism in depth like that, but I have studied Hinduism, and Hinduism was an offshoot of
Sure,
Zoroastrianism.
sure. Hinduism's
Um,
very old. Uh,
yeah.
the so like the ancient Mesopotamians, they wrote a story of Ademu, Adam, and his property wife. Sorry to throw it out there like that, but like the and there was a tree, and all the waters came from this tree, and the roots of the tree were evil because of and introduced evil. And there's this brings up like the story of Lilith and all that stuff. But like this story is incredibly similar to what eventually becomes Judaism. Down to the names of things, the tree, the fruit, the temptation. All of those things are all all of the key factors are there, right? So, and this predates the tribes of Judah and their creation stories by quite a bit, right? So, where do are so how is it that then later the tribes of Judah are the ones that get it right from this story that is, that is already being passed around and told? I mean, like it seems to me like they're they've just adopted this story and then expanded on it, to fit their own moral framework and belief.
Right. So, it's a very old story. It's a very old culture. And what I would have to say is it really doesn't really disprove the Bible because
No,
most ancient religions have a story similar, which kind of proves that the Bible is kind of right in what it says concerning floods, concerning the origin stories of how humanity began. Because from the original history or from the original oral traditions of ancient man, all these different cultures and all these different religions adopt these specific aspects, like a great flood or um, like a an Adam and Eve story. Um, but it's clusters, like I said. So you need to
well,
have
yeah.
evidence that these things also came around. So like like
When
Sumer, they had Enki and Enkidu and Inanna and all these
Sure. Well,
cultural
with much of the
things
same story, right?
with much of the same story, but it lacks a person. Bless you. It lacks a personal God that is very intricate
So here's
in.
my question about that. All of these things do share that. And when you look at them and say, "Oh, well, they're all talking about the same thing," um, yeah, on the surface, yes, but there's a timeline involved, right? And first of all, that timeline violates anything to do with young Earth creationism because it goes back much further than 6,000 years. But the the second part would be though that to me, rather than this looking like someone documenting events, which start specific and become more watered down over time, you have stories that are then more exaggerated and made more specific over time, which is the path
It
that
can be.
mythology and legend takes. Um, and so? Is it a possibility, at least, that this is what's occurring? That they're explaining the world and the events that take place in the world, the presence of evil and suffering and pain. They're explaining those things through the natural world because that's all they experience, and so they can't explain something. So then they start adding supernatural causes. Well, this is done, because of this, and we experienced this flood because of the bad things we done. It must be some supernatural being punishing us for being bad. I mean, is it at least a possibility in your mind that that is an explanation of how that story comes into existence?
On the surface, yeah, but when you look into like the in-depth portion of what happened at the point of the ark specifically, so yeah, you had a whole bunch of oral traditions and stuff that were going on before Noah's flood, but at that point, it was only what 4, 5, 6 people on the boat, so they had a huge interaction spiritually with the God of all creation at that point, and that's what was orally introduced after the flood. I think at Mount Ararat or something like that, where Noah landed. He made the journey
Mm-hmm.
from there down the mountain, and that's where he kind of implanted his, or kind of planted his living space at that point. And then from there, humanity spread out, and then you have Og, and you have all these different areas that humanity went into near the same area where Noah supposedly was at that point. They didn't just spread across all the world at that point. It was the
The city
early,
of Nod.
yeah, the city of Nod, Og.
Where do the people come from for the city of Nod?
Oh, the city of Nod. I forgot
And we'll
what
get
land
into
it
the
was.
arc thing in a minute because Obviously, I'm going to challenge that, but
Right.
um, the things in this story, I agree with you. The story does lay it out this way, but whenever we look at how things actually function and how the world works, because again, the city of Nod, if everybody's gone because every person was evil, where are the people coming from for the city of Nod? Does and they have this spiritual experience with God that you describe. Is this like, hey guys, so look, I killed everybody else. You're gonna have to sleep with your sister. You're gonna have to sleep with your nephews, uh, because we got to get some people up in here. Um, and I mean, we know now, because of science and technology, what producing a lineage of through incestuous acts
Yeah.
would do. Is God just suspending the rules for this to take place? And if so, again, the same question: could He have just done it any other way?
Um, it's a funny topic, but basically at that time, so through mitochondrial mutation stuff, we go back down the lineage and whatnot. Um, the corruption or the mutations in the DNA, and this is from like old studies I've looked at. The corruption in the DNA was less than what it is now. So having sex with your sister wouldn't produce the same results as having sex with your sister now.
Why was it
Still kind of
less?
messed up, but
Why would it be less than what we're dealing with the same DNA essentially? Why would it be different then?
so based off of the DNA back then compared to now, there's been probably a few thousand mutations that happened over the time period between then and now. Um, I believe that the DNA sequences were a lot more pure concerning.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, yeah. So I believe that the DNA was more pure back then,
Why? Why do you believe that?
because of I'm trying to go into like the process of like mitosis and stuff right now. Sorry.
Well, no,
Um,
so here's the deal. Like, obviously, neither one of us are biologists, geneticists. Like, we're not. And I'm not trying to speak as an expert, and you're not either. I understand. But when we talk about, I know that there are creationist studies, air quotes, that make this claim, but those claims are not supported by biology or genetics or how any of that works. There is no there exists no actual studies supported by um, reproducible evidence that shows that there was pure DNA that was then diluted. Now, genetic drift and things like that occur. That's but those are, you get into the pillars of evolution. The and uh, we I don't want to go too far down this evolution path though, because that's a whole big
it's
conversation.
yeah.
Um, but uh, I mean, if you have access to some sort of studies um, that are published in peer-reviewed, reputable journals, I would love to see those. The Because from my study of this subject and from my conversations with um, experts in the field, such as Dr. Dan, um, I don't I don't think that the evidence supports that. I don't think that we find any of that. And I just recently did a debate against Donnie from Standing for Truth, where they were supposed to provide evidence for the biblical Adam and Eve, and that we all come from those two people. Um, Genetic and biology, if if we want to claim divine intervention and miracle, okay. I mean, there's nothing else to really say at that point. Like it was God made it happen. It was he suspended the laws of physics and nature and caused it to be that way. There's that claim obviously can't be supported with physical evidence.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
think,
nothing else to really say at that point.
yeah, I think God uses the system that he designed in order to enact his stuff as well. Like there's obviously like the fire sulfur balls from heaven that burned up Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff, and other like extra other earthly or otherworldly events like that. But most of the time, he uses the natural process of humanity and the processes and the systems and the laws of nature to enact his will as well.
Well, I don't think they allow for that. Then the what we know about genetics specifically doesn't support any of that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Like again, we know what incestuous relationships and lineages cause,
Right.
and so the evidence points quite the opposite direction.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean so. There's one of these things where I'm saying from the science supports a different conclusion. I understand that the science doesn't deal in absolutes. Like it's this other line of reasoning is supported, and it excludes your claim. But that doesn't mean that this isn't what happened. This is just where I'm stuck with the evidence says this thing, and the claim is this other thing. So how do we get there? Is it a supernatural cause? Is it because the natural processes don't take you there? You can't then say, oh well, natural processes without setting some sort. There has to be some divine intervention at some point to change the way that the things work, or the starting point, or something. I mean, the flood itself is divine intervention. So we're already doing it. I mean, we might as well go ahead and just claim that all that stuff is. Because we get into. Have you heard of the heat problem? Uh,
The what now?
the heat problem.
The heat problem, like
Yes.
thermal heat.
Yeah, yeah. So this is within apologetics and counter apologetics. This is really one of the more famous problems that comes up for the young Earth creationist story. And there's two different versions of the heat problem. Well, not versions. They're two different heat problems. The first one is that the catastrophic events required to get us to where we are, the formation of all the sediments and the layers and all of the movement of the continents and all of that stuff creates. If everything happened that quickly, it would create so much heat that there would be no life on Earth. The other part of the heat problem is that radioactive decay. So we understand that radioactive elements decay at constant rates.
Right.
If the amount of daughter material compared to the amount of radioactive material that we see, if all of that happens within 6,000 years, that amount of decay over that close period of time would melt the Earth. It would create so much heat just in that happening. So there and I say science doesn't deal in absolutes, but unless we suspend the laws of physics and nature as we know them, it makes these things impossible. So that's why atheists will often say not only is a flood and a 6,000-year-old Earth not supported, it's one of the few things we can actually say we know did not happen. Uh, And I know that's a hard rebuttal. Like I know that the like you're not going to solve the heat problem today. It's they've been working on it for a long time. So at that point, what's required is this divine intervention, right? Uh, Blaster Master, hey, I'm glad to see you. By the way, and Deviant Outcast, have a great night. Sorry, I had to jump in there, but yeah. So I don't expect you to like form a rebuttal to both of those things or anything. I'm just telling you why it is that like I can't get on board with what you just said.
No, I mean, the thing is like I'm not feeling any sort of negative way towards this stuff. These are subjects that I actually want to look into myself, to do research on myself, because concerning the genetics and like the heat theory and the heat problem, um, I have not researched that in depth, to be honest.
Sure.
Um, One thing that I did hear though is basically, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is concerning evolution. If evolution were to happen, the amount of time that it would take to get to the process we are to today, the sun would have already exploded by now because of because of the decay and how stars kind of like live and then die. The amount of billions of years or trillions of years would have surpassed the amount of time that the sun would be alive at this point.
Um, I'm just gonna hard disagree with that one because the top of star that the sun is, we can actually see how long it's been creating fusion. That's how we date the formation of our solar system. The And we actually have some very well supported predictions on the extent of the sun's life, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's something like another either 500 million years maybe that the sun has before it starts creating before its outer layers start to expand and destroy the inner rocky planets. So um, that and this is one of the things in creation apologetics that I just said. I understand that you think that that is the case, but I would love to see any math or science that supports that because that is just not what any of the uh, cosmology points to.
Right, and that's why I asked. I inquired about that because I don't know if you had like sources on that and stuff. I've heard about it, but I never really looked in depth into like the creation aspect of things. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, none of us were there, and we don't really know
Oh
100%
no.
what happened.
Oh
You
no,
know?
none of us were there. You know, none of us were there for God's creation event either. So if we're going
True.
to use that out, we're going to have to apply it to both sides.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that it takes a certain amount of faith on each side at a certain point to believe those starting points at that point.
Well, now hold on here, because I have a problem with this word faith. Faith in the biblical sense in religion is belief in the unseen, right? Like it's believing things that I mean that's how Jesus describes it. The Whenever okay, and I know like in Hebrew there's this argument about pistis and a reasoned faith and a supported faith and all that, but again I'm pointing out that this is not a supported faith, that the science, the math itself, the all the tools we have support a different set of events. So if we talk about what is more of a reasoned position, then mine isn't based on faith, it's based on evidence. Yours is based on faith, which is okay. That's what the Bible tells you to do. It says this is the story and you should believe it. And this is how it happened. But those reasons that it gives of how it happened aren't supported by anything in the natural world itself.
Yeah, I could. we could disagree to disagree on that.
Sure, sure, and I mean, I get it, man. And again, I know like some of these, like it's like I'm saying, no, you're wrong. Like, and again, I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert in any of these fields. Um, it's just we have two different ways of it up, and I know there's a colloquial use like of like where I have, you know, I have faith in the scientific argument, right? But whenever I use it that way, it's not the same as the faith that we talk about in a religious. It's not just I believe it based on the evidence. It's I believe it based on the theology, which which is not hard evidence. Um, and you have to take that leap. That's what faith in religion is, right? Like you have to take that leap. And it's required of almost all religions, and certainly the Abrahamic ones, that we tell you the story and you're to believe it's true uh, with what we've given you, which there's no science, there's no math, there's none of that in there. Now, if you go and look at science and math and they don't support those things, they support a different outcome, and you still believe it, that's religious faith.
Right. So there's
The same thing, I would argue. So,
sorry to cut you off, man. You were kind of glitching out there for a second. I didn't know if you were still talking.
sorry.
Yeah. So the faith that I was talking about is kind of like the faith that it takes to know that the chair that you're sitting in isn't going to fall over and break. Like it takes a certain amount of initial faith to believe into it, even though there's all the evidence and stuff. You can still, with the amount of evidence on both sides, because I could talk about the evidence on my side as well, the archaeological evidence, the archaeological dig ups in Israel
Oh
concerning the line
no.
of David
Oh
and
no.
stuff.
You're not a Ron Wyatt believer, are you?
Oh, what now?
Ron Wyatt?
Mm,
That they found the ark at a mountain in Israel, that sort
nah,
of
I
thing.
didn't hear that. That's kind of interesting.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to look into that one.
He's a con man. It's a lie. It's been
But no,
proven to
no,
be a
I'm
lie.
talking like the articles and stuff concerning King Solomon, the Shroud of Turin, which there's a lot of debate on it. I know. But scientists have looked into it a bit and did diagnostic studies, and it even emits a little bit
What did
of
they
radiation,
determine?
if I remember. What?
What did the people who looked at the Shroud of Turin, the scientists that looked at it, what did they determine? Do you know? Because I do.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay. Let's
They
hear your side
determined that
first.
first of all, the age of it is not consistent with what's claimed, and that it appears to be almost a artistic thing. It's that it was made to be some sort of like art.
Oh, you lost him.
Is what many of them told them. Now I know.
Hey, Chad, did
That,
you guys lose him as well?
oh, can you not hear me?
Oh.
Am I still here? Do you hear me?
Oh, you're back. Awesome.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
nope,
Sorry
you're
about
gone.
that. So can you
Ah,
hear
there you
me
go.
now? Everything's good?
Yep, everything's good now.
Okay, sorry about that. Um, I'm on the hotel's Wi-Fi, so it's like, you know, it is what it is.
It's shoddy.
So the I know that there was a lab that was part of the Institute for Creation Research, the ICR, the RAISE lab, that had made some claims that they had tested it and it confirms this and that, but none of that study has been uh, peer reviewed or confirmed to be true, because actually the fragments of the shroud that they tested were obtained through somewhat questionable means. Now, the actual scientists that were brought in to study the Shroud of Turin have not been able to determine that it's consistent with the age that it would need to be, and other professionals and experts that have looked at it said that it appears to be a work of art, that it couldn't have been made naturally from the causes that's claimed. So we have conflicting at best we have, and the creationist supported lab, of course, confirms that it's creationism. Um, Secular doesn't mean that they couldn't confirm those dates. I mean, even if I say it's the right age, it looks like this, the church says it's this, even if I give all of those things, it still doesn't confirm any supernatural story whatsoever. There's nothing about the Shroud of Turin that is not explained through natural means.
So, like, I heard that about the Shroud of Turin, that it was a sudden, immediate flash of energy, and that they were able to read some sort of, I think it was like radiation or something along the lines of radiation or some type of energy radiating off of it still. Um, I know that was documented, and I just want to
Right.
get your opinion on that.
So I'm always going to, in this case, um, ask, by whom. And if you can later, like, send me a link to what you're talking about. I'm not gonna, um, the monk who made the shroud told his bishop as much, as what Andrew is saying, but and it's documented that it was an artistic creation. Okay, so but um, send me that information. I'd be happy to look at it. I would be happy to have multiple conversations with you, like, and we can work
Yeah,
our way through
absolutely.
all of these things that we've talked about. I think that we've both been, uh, friendly and civil, and we're having a good conversation, and I appreciate it. And if there's more things, like, if the takeaway from this is, hey, look at these things that I'm using to say this, I will definitely look at those things, and then we can talk about those. Like, um, I would challenge you, though, to approach it with the same open mind,
Hmm.
and look at the conclusions that challenge what you said, because I feel like that those are well supported and plentiful. But given that we need to look into that more, if we want to have a Shroud of Turin conversation, we can absolutely do that. But let's come prepared for a Shroud of Turin conversation if we're going to refer to studies and science that's been done on it. And that's for both of us, right? So we can definitely do that, though, if you want. Because me personally, like, I'm a mythicist. I don't even believe that Jesus existed. So, not the Jesus character from the Bible, as in there may have been an apocalyptic preacher or something, but the story of Jesus in the Bible, he wouldn't even recognize that it's talking about him, because it's so just extreme. The and it's That's a whole, again, mythicism, another conversation. Um, but so whenever we talk about a reasoned faith, or what is supported, I think that whenever I weigh out these two, and this is why I'm an atheist, right? When I weigh out these two things of what is this picture paint and what is it supported by, what does this say, and what does the science have to say about some of these claims, and history, and all these other branches of science that are supported by evidence, what do they have to say, and which one seems to be more likely to be the case? Um, that's where I come to the conclusion that religions, all of them, that I'm aware of, are just man-made explanations to explain a world they didn't understand. And as we've came to understand that world more and more, religion has taken a smaller part in that explanation, because we know that Apollo doesn't drag the sun across the sky every day. We understand the mechanics of how those things work now, and we no longer need to come up with a supernatural explanation. Um, so that's why I come to the conclusions that I do. Like it's not, and again, that's back to the faith conversation of like why I don't think that these things are supported. I'm going back to the beginning. Bye, Let's Farm. Thanks for joining. Uh, but again, it comes to this position of this doesn't mean that I'm saying. I definitely think that there's some parts of this that you are wrong about, but it's not you that's wrong. It's creationism in that story that's wrong. It's not you personally. So whenever I'm attacking those, I'm attacking your ideas, not you. I think you've been a perfect gentleman, and this has been a really interesting conversation. So yeah, yeah. The I just for these things that require studies and stuff, I would love for you and I to like pick a pick a topic or even a couple topics or whatever, and not have a debate necessarily, but just put together some of the stuff that we want to talk about this study or that study. Share those studies with each other ahead of time,
Right.
not necessarily our thoughts, but like here's the studies, we're going to go look at them, and you can go look at what I have to say about it, and then we can come on and talk about why we disagree as far as what's supported. um, the My cigarette keeps going out. uh, so the let's jump way back and get back to some of these philosophical problems, the problem of evil and such.
Okay.
So, excluding the ark and all of those things, let's go into I've kind of hit on divine hiddenness with the like we wouldn't expect this God to behave that way, and we see a different outcome, and that God's not, and all of those things. Let's go on to where deception comes in, and I'm not going to go real deep into this because it's again a very lengthy thing that we could have a whole conversation just about this, and we probably, if we have more talks, we probably will have just a problem
Right.
of deception conversation. But whenever this special creation event takes place, the world is created, and humans only, not animals, are well. We now know that some are capable of deception, but um, humans are created with this ability to deceive and be deceived. And later in the Bible, it's said that um, Satan is the father of lies and can masquerade as an angel of light and can deceive even the elect. Um, which I don't know if you believe in that whole elect thing or whatever, but the even those who are destined to arrive in heaven eventually can be deceived by Satan. And so this creates a problem of, first of all, why was deception even part of God's creation? It didn't need to be a thing. But Satan masquerading, it was Lucifer and not Satan. You're correct, Titan. As usual, you are correct. Um, this ability to deceive man, how do we then know that like Jesus was the person that he says he was, right? So, and this goes into a bigger thing of how do we know that Yahweh was good, because most of his acts seem to be evil. But um, the if Lucifer slash Satan is able to masquerade as an angel of light and deceive even the elect, how are we to test a supernatural being that claims to be the Son of God when the very first thing is there's no other way to the Father but through me? which violates the first commandment of, um, I'm first. There is no other gods before me. The it's and later the Trinity is not a biblical thing. It's created by what eventually becomes the Catholic Church. Um, the so if if we are able to be deceived and Satan, Lucifer, is able to masquerade as an angel of light that we have no way of knowing, when we look at the events through the Bible and the acts of even Jesus, like Jesus goes in his solution to get rid of a bunch of demons, bad spirits, whatever, is to destroy someone's property and run all of his livestock off of a cliff. Like that, I mean, that was that person's livelihood. He destroyed it. He curses a fig tree for not growing fruit out of season. Uh, he, instead of healing a blind man, he slaps mud on his face and makes him walk around town all day. And then at the end of the day, whenever he's suffered all day long, he finally gives him the prize. These are not the actions uh, of somebody who is not trying to deceive in some way, in my opinion. So, what do you say to an argument like that? I would go as far as to say you can't claim that the Bible wasn't written by Lucifer.
So I'm just writing all the topics down
Sure,
typing
sure,
them out
no,
real quick.
no, and I don't even care if like I throw something out there, you need to look it up. Look it up. I mean, the there's no shame in not knowing the answer to something. It's hey, let's come back to that another time because that's a big topic. Is fine. Always.
Right. And I'm always open to that stuff as well. Um, so concerning the Trinity, I see based on different scriptures, even in the Old Testament, and even in the beginning, where it says, "We made man in our image." That's speaking of because then God later says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word at that point was considered to be Jesus himself, which is the physical incarnation of God himself. But he also existed before the physical body as well. Um, so we see that mm, I believe that the Trinity is real in some aspects, but it's a little bit different than. I feel like it's something that people can't really comprehend. Like,
Right.
um, like when someone tells me, "Oh, how can God be up in heaven and be Jesus at the same time?" Well, there's different, like there's the egg situation where it's like, oh, you got the shell of the egg, then you got the membrane, and then the yolk, but it's all one thing. Um, I personally believe that they are three different aspects, but they're all connected to each other. Kind of like it's kind of a I don't know if this is considered blasphemy or not, but it's kind of like you ever played like GTA or some type of role playing game?
Sure.
It's kind of like making a character in the game and playing as yourself.
So an avatar. Jesus is God's avatar.
Not not just an avatar, but like you're him and you're living out your days in that game just as much as you're living your days up in heaven at that point, and theoretically.
I've heard
Um,
this comparison, by the way.
oh, for real?
Not with GTA specifically, but like video games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's not like an odd concept to be like, well, Jesus can be God because he basically just created a human form through a woman and basically lived out his life here to fulfill the
through a
purpose
girl,
of
I would argue.
shedding. Oh, what now?
I would say through a girl, 12 to 14 years old.
That's speculative. A lot of people say that it was more so like 17 to 18.
Sure. I'm sure
Yeah.
they do.
I mean, that's
That would be a
I'll send you evidence
hard
on
one
that as
to
well.
agree with, wouldn't it?
Let's see here.
um, so real quick though, one of the things that, and I have problems with this as well, but one of the things that atheists will often say, or even people of other religions will say, well, what we have in the Trinity is God. God comes to Earth Himself to save us from the consequences that He created by sacrificing Himself to Himself. Uh, and we get to this like again: is there's God can't just forgive? Is God not capable? Is He not willing? Uh, the you know was there a way to do this that if God wants people to believe that and worship and those things, then why do this in a way that we're not able to comprehend? It seems like that's counterproductive to what the stated goals are.
Um, yeah. So basically, um, it's kind of like, so you have to go through a bunch of traditions to get through this. But basically, in Judaism, the reason why they were sacrificing a lamb was to offer the shedding of blood and to basically sweep your sins away for that year. So through that, that was a temporary solution to the sin problem because without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sins. Um, so when we go into Jesus dying on the cross, that and you know this, you've already studied all that stuff. Um, Basically, Jesus dying on the cross was the perfect shedding of innocent blood on our behalf, and so now our sins are covered permanently through his sacrifice for us. And so the sacrifice to God, to himself, technically, I guess you could say that, but it was more so a mission because you see afterwards what happened in the spiritual realm after Jesus died on the cross. So he bore the sin of the world on himself. He actually went to the land of the dead. And it says that he took the keys of hell and death and basically made a mockery of all the principalities and powers that were down there at the time. And he also lectured the fallen angels for deceiving mankind. And then he ascended. So that was all that was happening during that period of him dying on the cross and resurrecting.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't Jesus the Jesus was the lamb, the innocent, the was the only person to die without sin. He
Correct.
but supposedly took our sins. I think what you're why the blood magic though? Like why do we need to? Because even like I would compare this to like what we often think of in like Mayan culture, right? Us in order to achieve something. An all powerful God chooses to do this like barbaric blood ritual to forgive you for sins that he is the one who enforces the consequences of. If he wants to forgive people, forgive people. Um, Not to mention, the whole like, there's no evidence that this actually occurred, at least not in that way. Where and you have I won't say there's no evidence. I'm guilty of this. So are a lot of other. Excuse me. Sorry. So are a lot of other atheists. It's not that there's no evidence. It's just there's not sufficient evidence to make that claim, and there's far from sufficient evidence to make that claim. I think, and that it is actually a very irrational claim to make, given what we know historically. Now, the fact that places like Galilee and some of the people involved existed, I don't think supports the zombie party that apparently happened after Jesus died, where the saints rise from their tombs and walk around town. I don't think that those things are reasonable to conclude as historical fact. I don't think historians conclude that those things are can be claimed as historical fact. Now, most historians and of course biblical scholars, especially those who are believers in Jesus, well, Jesus definitely existed. Bart Ehrman, atheist, says Jesus existed. I disagree, but the um, it's not that it again we get to this like why though why does God require the blood of him? Only himself can do it, right? Like it's only him that could come and be the innocent that is martyred for your sins, like and it's through this blood sacrifice which we're like wise you have to sacrifice. You're like, why are we doing this blood magic culty stuff? Like this is the behavior of when I grew up, of what they said atheists were, or those satanic cults down the road, sacrificing dogs to Satan. Like this is that story only with prettier words. Uh,
So there's a few layers to this. One being that because of our rebellion, it caused death. So in order for, and this is just kind of how Yahweh made the system, in order, the consequences of sin is
oh,
death. So
One second.
in
Our rebellion, are you talking about the fall or the flood? Or
the
both?
fall,
Okay.
the
Okay, go
fall.
ahead.
Yeah. So after our sin, after our original rebellion, that brought in death and destruction and chaos. And
So the
so,
son bears the sins of the father.
no, no, it's our willful actions. Yeah, no, I didn't say
Then,
anything about like
well,
inheriting
I mean,
sin.
how does the fall then? Like, how are we? Because of if the son doesn't carry the sins of the father, it doesn't. We don't hold those sins.
Correct. And so, the Lord talks about that too. Like we're not responsible for the sin of our fathers, but that we would have to ask ourselves, okay, what counts as sin or counts as rebellion? Technically, anything that we do against what God says is right is rebellion by nature, thus is sin. And so it can be just one slip up of the tongue. It can be, um, disobeying our parents one time. It can even be a foolish thought. Like
So all
in
sins are equal
um,
in the eyes
in
of
the
God.
in the terms of entering into hell, yeah, and condemning ourselves. But on earth, there's different consequences for the sin. Like obviously,
Sure.
lying to a baby isn't gonna do anything compared to like lying to a judge.
Let me give
Um,
you an example that is most definitely an appeal to emotion, and it's it's one of these things that I've said before, but like so me as an atheist, I'm doomed to hell. The worst thing you can do is not believe. The the person who committed crimes against children for his whole life and then goes to death row in prison and accepts Jesus and sincerely is repenting for his acts goes to heaven. But even if I was good in every other way, it wouldn't matter because I don't believe. And not only does that person deserve an eternity of bliss and all those things in heaven, I deserve an eternity of torture for being a good person that didn't believe. Um, does that seem reasonable? I mean,
in our terms of good and evil, sure, but when it comes to justice, like pure justice, like going to a court system, going to a place where people are tried and jured and stuff. The amount of good that we do doesn't outweigh the evil that has been done, and so justice needs to be enacted. And there are different levels of torment in hell depending on what you've done here on earth. Like it talks about the false prophets and false pastors are going to get a harsher judgment than those that didn't participate in that. Um, so when it comes to sin, it's a natural, or I wouldn't say a natural, but it's a very common condemnation on ourselves, based off of God's justice. And so that's why a good person in our eyes can be sent to hell, and the person that just murdered somebody can actually go to heaven. It's because it's not based off of works; it's based off of faith, but also the knowledge of the system that God set up. So what we consider evil and wrong can be a little bit different than what God considers evil and wrong. And he's a
Right.
lot more harsh. And we see this in the Beatitudes in Matthew. So it talks about, um, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, if you hate somebody in your heart, you've committed murder. And so Jesus is representing in those scriptures how in depth our sin actually goes. And so because of that, it condemns us, and
Sure.
we basically condemn ourselves. And the thing is, it's easy to get to heaven. It's not by works; it's by faith alone. So if I confess with my mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in my heart, or trust in my soul is the right translation, that He was raised from the dead, I will be saved.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
I
it's
would
not based
disagree
on
that that's an
myself.
omnibenevolent God. Like that's so to me, and again, this is by my standard. It's not the anything else. I have no other way to judge your statements other than by my own moral framework. I don't believe in objective morality. Uh, but the whenever we're talking about, and this conversation's been a lot of it about the problem of evil, we've wandered around and talked about other things, which is great. That's why I do discussions rather than debates,
Right.
because I think that us hitting on these other things is adds so much more to the conversation. I think that sometimes you need to go talk about those other places and have that conversation. And so, but to me, again, we arrive back at the same problem of, are these the actions that are good? Are we calling like this person who says with their mouth and believes with their heart, but has been a terrible person for decades, deserves better than someone who doesn't, not just deserves better, but the one person deserves an infinite punishment for a finite crime, of just not believing, whereas the the other deserves heaven and all the things that are included with that. I don't think that those things follow, with trying to say they're good, other than like we're going to invoke divine command theory, where it's like, well, because God is good, He says this is good, what He does is good, everything's good that God says and does, regardless of any common sense or logic or anything else. It's like it's just good because God says so. Um, and again, that's okay, but I don't really, I don't. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And whenever it comes to like what you believe those things, not necessarily because it does make sense. You have faith, like, so you believe they're true, and then the two things support each other. I don't. I don't, because I don't believe those things make sense. I'm not able to jump on that boat with you. Like I can't say, and this is like, this would be an incredulity argument if we're making trying to make an actual argument about it. But whenever we're talking about what you believe to be true and why you reject those things, um, I think that them not making sense is a strong argument, right? In that sense, like what you believe. Now, if we were talking about um, objective facts and things, and I say, well, it doesn't make sense that atoms work that way. That's incredulity. But like when I'm expected to believe a story or some sort of dogma based on faith, I mean, I think it applies there. So we've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. I try to keep these to about 2 hours.
Wow, that long, huh?
Yeah, yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it? Like it's so weird making content because like I'm like, oh, I want to review a video. Like if I bring in a couple people and we review a video, you think you're gonna, oh, it's just a 30-minute video. We'll do that. It can take 4 or 5 hours to get through a 30-minute video because everybody has something to say and you talk and just like with us, that goes on these tangents and other places. But it's all pertinent information. It's just these are complicated conversations and it's not easy to just say, well, it's this way, it's not this way. It's
Right.
We're talking about belief and feelings and things like that. And so I think if you want to respond to what I just said, fine, and then we'll kind of land this plane and head in that direction. So do you want to respond to any of that,
Yeah, I mean,
or do you want me to just carry?
no, no, I could say a little bit. Um, at the end of the day, concerning heaven and hell, it really comes down to if you really want to be with God, you'll be with Him. If not, you won't, and that's just the way it is. And it's a personal choice. It's a personal decision. Everybody has their own personal decisions. I just want to try to make the most persuasive and the most logical argument of why you should. Um, and just like on your end, you're trying to do the same thing. You're trying to get the truth. Everybody's trying to get the truth in this world. I just see that you know the evidence of Christ in my life and the evidence I've seen historically, I believe that that is a contributing factor for me to truly believe that Jesus is real and that He is God. Um, and obviously, I have to do some more research on some of the topics. I'm going to go through this video and go through all the stuff as well because I find this very interesting and I love going through different people's opinions about life and about their worldview and stuff. So I'm very open to having more conversations with you, and it's been a very joyful experience to come on here and you know
It's
spit
fun, isn't it?
spit some information out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, um, you and I can get together and maybe look at whatever you want to look at, and you tell me like what topic that either we have or haven't hit on. We're a good starting point for another conversation, or if we're going to have a talk about like science and stuff like that. Let me know, and we'll get together the sources and things to talk about what it has to say about whatever topic it is. Especially like I like the archaeological evidence thing that you talked about. I would like to have that conversation because
Yeah. I find it interesting and fascinating because
and
there's evidence on both sides concerning that stuff.
sure, and there's several things there, and I mean I'm going to try and do this same time, same day of the week for a few weeks. Stream on Saturday evenings. If you want to come back next Saturday and us, continue on, I would be game for that. Just email me and we'll talk about it. And
Okay.
in fact, if we're going to continue talking and stuff, I'll give you a way to get a hold of me a little bit easier. We can continue the conversation some more. There will probably be one or two people at least from chat that may reach out to you and want to talk to you as well. This is, whenever a theist comes and wants to talk about these things, I don't always hit on the things that they want to talk about, and it drives them nuts. So they're like, I want to talk to that guy, And I will tell you this: not everybody's as friendly as I am. The
Nah, I get it.
Yeah, and well, definitely as you are, so that's fair both ways. But the yeah, I would love to sit down again next week or the week after, whenever you want to do it, and have another conversation and keep this going. Uh, it's hard to get theists who, especially after one conversation, want to continue because often we have some places where we hard disagree, and it gets kind of frustrating. And sometimes conversations get heated and things, but it's never personal. It's always about the attacking the idea, not the person. Like, um,
Right.
but yeah, we can definitely work towards that. I will say to my chat and everybody that's here, I'm just now getting back into picking up streaming regularly. I've been dealing with some personal stuff and moving and all that crap, and it's been living out of a hotel for like months now. And yeah, my girlfriend, my kid, and I share a hotel room. The It's been complicated, but we should we should be in an apartment real soon and stuff. It's just been
Yeah.
a mess. So that's affected my streaming schedule and things like that. I used to stream multiple times a week, and I've got a great audience of people, but I haven't been streaming, so this video didn't even reach most of them. As we continue to consistently do things, more and more people will show up for every stream, and then
Right.
it getting a few hundred views. This one probably won't reach that because it's the first stream like this I've done in a while. But we will continue to talk if you want to, and if you're
Absolutely.
watching though, go share this somewhere so that people can watch it and show up for later ones. Share this on social media or something so that other people can come and see what we talked about. Because if I have the same questions, if Dan and I both have the same questions we have, and this may not be an answer, but it's a civil conversation about it that can help other people work their way through it. So,
I
um,
agree.
yeah, and if if you decide you want to start a channel, or if you want me to point people to some kind of social media stuff, give me that information, Dan, and I will happily plug it. I don't mind at all. Um, as for myself, I'm the Kentucky Atheist everywhere. Discord, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me. Let's see. I think that first of all, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you being open minded and friendly and honest. I think that I don't think you tried to feed me a bunch of apologetics. You told me what you believe, and you were honest about things, and that's I'm not being mean to theists, but that's not always easy to find.
I
And
agree.
so yeah, and with atheists as well. Not everybody does things their way, and we this way, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But uh, do you have any final words before we cut the feed, Dan?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sorry about your situation, first of all. If there's any way I could help you, let me know. Um, and concerning, the people that are out there that do debate people and that do want to talk about their stuff, whether they're atheist or they're, Christian or any other religion, it's a lot easier to get your point across using sugar than salt. And so,
Absolutely.
you know, if you
Get more
can't,
bees with honey. That's what we say here in Eastern Kentucky.
there you go. So yeah, I mean, if you want a true civil debate and get real answers, it's best to keep your pride at the side and just let the information flow. That's what it comes down to. And
Cool.
I would love to have more conversations with you. I don't know about this Saturday because I'm still in college. I'm going through a bunch of information already.
I feel you.
But I definitely want to keep in touch, and I definitely want to do another interview soon. I like these conversations. So
Well, we can get together and work that out. I will stream next Saturday regardless of whether you're here or not. So if you know if we do, fine. If not, we'll do it when we can. And by all means, I want you to feel good about coming into it and all that. I don't want to overwhelm you or anything like that. I want to have a conversation like we did tonight. So by all
Yeah.
means, yeah, whenever. I'm not. Damn it, Dan, you're going to be here next Saturday. Um, yeah, not like that. I don't mind. I've had a lot of these conversations. I've been doing YouTube for a few years now,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm at 1700 and some subscribers, somewhere in some. I don't remember, but 16 to 1700 somewhere in there. And uh, it's a lot of conversations, a lot of videos, a lot of studying things of these topics, a lot of reading the Bible and understanding it in both the King James version and many times with the Old Testament Hebrew, and talking to people like Dead Sea Scrolls expert Kip Davis and biologist Dr. Dan, and taking in information from debates and other talks and all that stuff, trying to not just it's not the goal isn't to argue and oppose theists. You're not my enemy. The goal is to have a better understanding of what's true, and to better understand why people believe some things are true that I don't, and why people, just to be blunt about it, people believe some things are true that just aren't.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's there's other people in all different stages of deconversion, or maybe of their belief. And these conversations maybe help answer some of those questions, or make it easier for them to have a conversation, especially with somebody in their family or something like that, which isn't always a good thing, but it's sometimes hard to do. And seeing that two people can sit down and disagree and have an open conversation about a topic like this without fighting or being mad or anything. I mean, I think gives other people confidence to do the same. And that's really why I like doing this. I think it's an important topic that we shouldn't be so scared to talk about. And so we do. Uh, I really do appreciate everybody that showed up tonight. Saturday night, you spend it listening to me ramble on, and me and Dan talk about things that I know you've heard other videos about and stuff. I appreciate you coming here to hear it. If you're watching later, thank you for watching. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Maybe hit the thumbs up so we show this video to more people. And please get out there and share it. That would be awesome. But that's all I got for today.